Hello, everybody. This is Savik Shuster, and I couldn't resist to share with everybody of you my feelings, my conclusions after day one of the new Champions League. New. Now, it's new until the last 16. After the last 16, it's all the same. We are playing straight knockouts. Now, instead of 8 groups, 4 teams each, that is 32, we have one group of 36. Now, those 36 were drawn also in a very particular matter. Now, many of you maybe saw, maybe of you know, but some didn't, and I will, in a few words, try to sum up. The teams are divided before the draw into 4 pots, and those pots, as usual, were formed according to the recent achievements of the teams in the European Cups and their ratings. So if we look at the pot 1, for instance, Real Madrid, the champion of Spain, is there. Manchester City, the champion of England, is there. Paris Saint-Germain is there, the champion of France, and Inter Milan is there as champion of Italy. But the champion of Germany, Leverkusen, is in pot 2, and Bayern Munich is in pot 1. That's because Leverkusen was in the final of the last Europa League. It won the German championship, but it did not have as much great days in the European Cups as Bayern Munich had. So this was the principle, and the draw was very particular because Cristiano Ronaldo had to draw just one team. All the rest was done by the computer. Now, the regulations were quite simple. Teams are prevented from playing domestic rivals, and each side is limited to playing 2 clubs from a single nation. So basically, every team has 8 games. 8 games, 4 away and 4 at home. The first 8 teams go directly into the best 16. Teams from 9 to 24 play home and away knockout games, and 8 teams join the other 8, and you get 16. The rest of the teams leave European Cups. No more Europa League for those who had third place in a group, and or in a Europa League to Conference League. No more of that. Those teams, the 16 go through, and that's it. The rest of the 20 teams have to leave Europe for this season. So it's a more difficult format because you have to, first of all, you have to know 8 adversaries and study them instead of 3 as it was in a group format. And it's quite a heavy, it's a heavy burden for the entire technical team. Second is, of course, that you have to score a lot of goals. You have to try to limit the goals you're getting scored, and you have to win as many matches as possible. In my view, I think that to get into the first 8 of the total 24 points, you have to take, I think, 16, 17. That should be enough to get through. That means that you have to win all your home games, possibly, so that's already 12 points. And then you have to get 1 victory at least away. That should be enough, but I mean, that's theoretical. It's the first time this format is being played, and therefore we cannot say. Let's say in the past Champions League, you could say more or less how many points you need to get out of a group into the best 16. In every major European league, we know already more or less how many points you need to win the championship. But here it is very difficult to foresee. Same thing goes about the 16 after. So from 9th place to the 25th. Yeah, I think that there, I mean, 10, 12 points should be enough. But that's again, that's just a prognosis. But of course, I found it in day 1. I immediately found it, what should I say, more unexpected, more spectacular, sort of, I wouldn't say less calculated in a sense of, in a tactical sense of view, but it was a kind of a different football, because you play a team once, and you will not have to play her again, either home or away. So you have to get ready for that particular team, you have to study that particular team, and you have to play the game that the plan for which is decided by your general manager, or let's go head coach, exactly for that game. So I will go through games so that you immediately, I will not list the teams that went through to the 36 and how the draw went, but as I go through games, because I watched them basically all. Only a few I watched sort of summaries, but most of them I watched all. It was a particularly difficult 3 days, but so if you want to learn about something, you need to sacrifice something, and that means time. But you get a lot of pleasure. So let's start from Juventus PSV. Juventus won 3-1. I expected PSV to play exactly as they do in the Dutch league, very quick, a lot of pressing quite high, trying not to let your adversary to get out of their even box, never mind half line, and playing a lot of one-touch football. They do it in the Dutch league, but it's a Champions League. It's a different story. Juventus, of course, was very much aware of it. Juventus hasn't played Champions League 2 years in a row. They needed to win the first game in their stadium, but they knew and they do know their limits. They don't have exceptionally great players. And they played, they didn't let PSV play at all. What does it mean? It didn't give them a possibility to play one-touch football. That means that your midfielders, they at least they disturb going the ball being passed. Maybe they don't intercept it, but they disturb it so that the adversary has to go back and start all over again. And that's, of course, limits the team speed very significantly. So playing that way, Juventus scored 3 times, and in added time, already on a 86th, 87th minute, PSV managed to score 1 goal, 3-1. So that 1 goal that was scored by PSV may become, in the end, quite important. Aston Villa beat quite easily. I mean, there's little to say about that game. They played in Switzerland, and I mean, there was no opposition. Aston Villa was too strong in all senses, physically, tactically, technically. I mean, there was no match. Those two teams. Aston Villa is much stronger. So 3-0 is a result that reflects what was on the field. Real Madrid, Stuttgart. Real Madrid won 3-1, but it doesn't reflect at all of what was happening on the field. Stuttgart was playing really well. Quick thinking, quick feet, a lot of one touch, very good pressing, and Real Madrid was in real difficulty. Say Bellingham, okay, he is fresh after an injury. You couldn't expect him to play 100%, but I mean, it was not the Real we're used to. But very often Real in the first stage plays not very convincing football. But what Real does know is they know how to score goals. And that is the most important thing in football. And I think that the boy that scored the 3rd goal, Endrick, a Brazilian 18-year-old, we're going to hear about him quite a lot, because he's not tall, he's very dynamic, and he has an incredible sense of football, because the goal that he scored, of course Stuttgart was all there up front, and that was a breakaway. And he was the one that had the ball. He carried the ball, I would say, about 28-30 meters, maybe 25, 28 meters from the goal. He had 2 players, left and right, that he could have served, but he all of a sudden, and the goalkeeper was absolutely sure that he was going to give a ball right or left, and but he shot. Just like that, without, it was an absolutely unexpected shot, and the goalkeeper didn't expect it as well, obviously. So Real knows to score, and we should always keep it in mind. It's a team that has fantastic offense. Mbappe and Vinicius, they don't really like defending, so the midfield has to work for them, and they do it, I think, with great pleasure, because those two decide a lot of things. So Real, of course, is Real. That's all you can say. Sporting Lille Olympique Sporting Club, that is Lille. 2-0. Well, the Portuguese in general are very difficult to play to any team, because they play short pass, because they are very technical, because they can keep the ball for long for long pieces of time, and they're it's difficult to beat them, and Lille is not such a strong team anymore because it has sold quite a few players in the past 2 years. So it's I mean, the result is logical because Sporting was really it was better. That's all. I mean, not much to say. Bayern Dinamo Zagreb 9-2, and I don't want to say a word about it because it's sort of hilarious. In Champions League 9-2 in a final stage, basically. But still I will. Gary Kane scored 4. First half finished 3-0. At the beginning of a second half, all of a sudden, Dinamo Zagreb, one after another, scored 2 goals. Yeah, the score became 3-2, and after that, it was a massacre. And I think when the head coach of Dinamo Zagreb came up to the head coach of Aston Villa, and he had sort of, I wouldn't say a monologue, but quite a long speech. He probably told him, well, you could have stopped at a certain point, but that gives Bayern quite an advantage if it comes to goal difference. Milan Liverpool. Now Milan, before the game with Liverpool, Milan had won against Venice 4-0. And in Italy, I mean, you had headlines, Milan is flying, and Liverpool lost at home to Nottingham Forest. So, they had the Milanese, they had the Milanese, yet they had the hope that at home they can really deal with Liverpool. And they scored a very early goal, as a matter of fact, as they did in Venice. But gradually, just gradually, the game was overtaken by Liverpool. Liverpool was quicker in all the tackles. It won a lot of tackles. It was quick in interception. It was technical in attack, because Salah, he maybe lost a little bit of speed. Years they weigh on everybody, but his class is enormous, is absolutely enormous. And Gapko on the left, I mean, they played a good game, and I mean, Liverpool just tied. I mean, yeah, the 2 goals that they scored in the first half were sort of, goals from set positions. I mean, it was a corner, and it was and it was 2 corners basically 2 corners, and 2 head balls, and sort of in a row. That means that you have a defensive serious problem if you don't pick the people personally. One of the Italian journalists, he had such a phrase saying that if you mark zone, you have to control the space and the adversaries, players that in that space find themselves at a given moment. But Milan defenders, they defend the grass and the sky above. So I think that Milan is going to have a lot of trouble in this Champions League and in this season in general. So we are still day 1, but you already see how many 6 games a day. That's only that's the only day of 8 game days that 3 days were used to play the game. So 6 games each day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. From now on, it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday. It's really going to be difficult to follow the Champions League. That's one of the problems. We are used to World Cup or European European Championship, where you see all 3 games, let's say, but they're in different times. And so you have a possibility to see them all if you are really fanatic about football. But here is very difficult. They're being played, 2 games are being played earlier, the rest are played after the first 2 games, and you get 6 games at the same time, and it's really, or you choose one, or you have a possibility to watch 2, but to follow more than 2 games is very difficult. I find it very difficult. Even 2 I find very difficult. So we come to Bologna Shaktar Donetsk, Ukrainian team that is obliged, is forced to play, to train and to play its home games abroad because of the Russian invasion. So it 0-0. Of course, Shakhtar has the wonderful opportunity at the very first minutes to score. Sudakov missed a penalty shot. I say that the terrain, the field was very heavy because during the first half and all day long, a very strong rain was pouring on Bologna, and of course the field suffered, and the technical players suffered most of all. As far as Sudakov's penalty is concerned, I must say that I was a little bit sort of, what should I say? I was a little bit frustrated because he's supposed to be one of the best players at Shakhtar, and the president put a price tag of 100 million on him. But then when he came to kick a penalty, he was not looking at the goalkeeper. He was looking at the ball, and his eyes were down. And that does not sort of underline class, not at all. All people who play with their eyes down, they're never going to be players above average. That's for certain. PSG, Girona. Girona is a Spanish surprise, of course, but they also they lost Dovbyk, at least one, the best scorer in the Spanish league last year. They lost him to Roma. And PSG did not really replace Mbappe. It has quite a few young players who are sort of promising, let's say. But it wasn't a good game, and I think that even Girona, looked much more confident. But the last minute, Mendy just broke away on the left flank, and he put the ball in the center. It fell off his foot. It went towards the goal, and between the goalkeeper's legs, last minute, 1-0. A pity for Girona, not for PSG. So PSG won. Paris Saint-Germain won 1-0. Celtic destroyed Slovan Bratislava 5-1. Slovan Bratislava is sort of a beginner in the Champions League. That's the first time they participate. Celtic participates regularly, let's say that way. Celtic is not top of the top, but they scored 5 goals. So it's quite an achievement, I would say, even against a beginner. Sparta Prague beat Salzburg 3-0. That's what surprised me most, is 3-0, because Salzburg is, it's a team that I don't know exactly, but I think the last 4 years in a row it's playing Champions League. It's a good team. It's a well-coached team. Well, anyway, Sparta Prague won 3-0. Dortmund, last year's finalist, also didn't play a very convincing game, but still won 3-0. Sometimes, you for a victory, you have to labor more than create. So they worked a lot, and well, they got the 3-0. And then Manchester City Inter, which was a central game of the day, and it's a game that me personally liked most of all the games I saw. Inter was lying low, Inter was defending and exploiting all the possibilities of counterattacks that they could have. And as they have a very technical midfield, it is and defense. It was possible, and they had quite a few chances. Of course, football games without mistakes are impossible. But otherwise, most of them would finish 0-0. Well, this one finished 0-0, and it was almost an ideal game, because Manchester City, they played in attack as they usually do, especially at home and away as well, but at home especially. And they were very, very careful not to giving up counterattacks to Inter. And you saw two fantastically organized, with perfect geometry, with perfect understanding of between themselves of the players on the field. Very, 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 very well coached. And Simone Inzaghi and Pep Guardiola. Of course, Pep Guardiola is one of the best. I think Inzaghi, in this game, he showed all his capabilities of a tactician. It was really, as one of the English commentators said, it was a master class of tactics, this game. And despite the 0-0, it was a game you just couldn't. You couldn't turn away from a screen for a second. So that was my favorite game of all the games that I played this week. Now, Thursday, we had Benfica beat Cervena Zvezda, that is Red Star, in Belgrade. Benfica scored one goal first time, one goal the second time. At the end, Red Star, Cervena Zvezda, they managed to put the ball in the net, but it was a bit too late because two minutes were remaining. But to tell the truth, they did not. I don't see a pattern of the game in Cervena Zvezda. I just don't see it. It's whereas Benfica, okay, they have people like Otamendi playing, who is 35 or 36. They have Di Maria playing, also an Argentinian, who is also 35 or 36. Despite that, they're not a slow team, and the usual Portuguese style. They are very technical. They keep very well the ball, and they're a team which is difficult to beat. And it's a team which is difficult to tie even. Brest, also the beginner in the Champions League, a small club in France, northern France. They beat Sturm Graz 2-1. Well, you see, surprises happened because Sturm Graz is not a newcomer to the Champions League. Atletico Madrid beat Leipzig 2-1. Leipzig opened the score, and then Atletico tied. Atletico played quite well, I must say, even though you look tactically, they are very, very defensive because they have 5 defenders, 4 midfielders, and 1 attacker. But in reality, this is how they defend. They attack completely differently. They have many more players in attack. And I must say that the second goal of Griezmann was really a great goal, exceptional, what they call a Euro goal. It was really an exceptional goal. And Antoine Griezmann remains a player. I think he's one of the most clever players in Europe. Feyenoord Leverkusen, Dutch average team against a German champion that lost in the past year and a half 2 times. One in this year's already season and against Atalanta in the final of Europa League. Well, they settled everything in the first half. There was no 4-0 first half, and they didn't do like Bayern did. But Bayern can be excused because at the moment when Dinamo scored 2 goals, I think they got a little bit of fear inside, so they decided to finish it quite brutally. But well, Leverkusen in the second time stopped because there was no reason anymore. I mean, the main thing was not to let the goal in. Atalanta Arsenal 0-0. Atalanta, the winner of the Europa League, and Arsenal number 2 in England. I find it was a very good game. Atalanta played the usual physical football. It's one-on-one marking the adversaries. It was quite quick. Well, sort of Lockman was not as sparkling as he was in the final of the Europa League, but still he is feared by the defenders of the opposition, and therefore they pay particular attention to him, and so that means that he frees spaces for other players, and that's important. And Atalanta had a penalty in the second half, and Retegui did not score. And again, he did not look at the goalkeeper. I mean, it was so clear, even to me, watching television, it was so clear to me where the goalkeeper is going, that if he stopped for a millisecond before kicking, he would have seen and he would have chosen the other angle. And then even after that, he had even a better chance because the goalkeeper, he got the ball, but the rebound came to Retegui's head. And he had to put it into the right angle because that's where, it's like inertia. The goalkeeper saves the penalty, he gets up, he sees that the Retegui has the ball on the head, and he runs towards him, and his right corner remains empty. So if Retegui would have sent, and the ball was not quick, he could have chosen easily the angle where, but he chose the wrong one. So the game finished 0-0. I think for Arsenal it's a good result, and it's a good result for Atlanta too, because well, sort of, they're teams that they played with a lot of respect to each other, And I'm not surprised by that, because really, sort of, they're teams that deserve each other. I mean, I don't want to say that they're the same level, because Arsenal is a stronger team, I think, in the end. But in one game, anything can happen. And in this game, I think they were two good teams, though Arsenal played below its usual standards. Now, we're missing Odegaard, and that is very sort of, that's Arteta himself, chief coach, he said that, without him, we have to change our game, because it was all centered around him, and now he is not there. So we have to change their style of playing, and that's not done very quickly. So, and what I have to say is that Arsenal is playing on Sunday Manchester City, and we understand that it's a very important game for the Premiership. And I'm not sure that we were thinking about it while we were playing against Atalanta, but the coach, I think, had in mind that they have to be fresh, especially keeping in mind that Manchester City had 2 days more of rest and didn't have to travel. And Arsenal had to go back to London last night. So same thing about Inter and Milan, by the way. They played, but they have the Milan derby on Sunday, and it's a derby. If in England, whatever happens, this derby is not decisive, because Arsenal can always come back if it loses, and Manchester City is now it's leading, and even if it loses, it's sort of not that tragic. But in Milan, it's different. If Milan loses to Inter, I think they're going to fire their head coach. And I don't know whom they're going to engage. But as I'm saying, Milan this year is, to me, is not going to go very far. No, maybe it's early to predict, but still, Monaco, Barcelona 2-1. Why did Monaco beat Barcelona? Barcelona that won all its games in the Liga. Barcelona, which changed the head coach, then Hansi Flick, the German, who was head coach of Bayern and of the national team. I mean, he came to Barcelona. They chose him, and 5 games in a row they won, and all of a sudden they lost in Monaco. First of all, because on the 10th minute, Garcia, one of the pivot midfielders, was expelled, red card. So they played 10 against 11. Monaco scored. They tied the game, about 15 minutes later. But still, playing 10 is really difficult. And already the curtain was going down. It was about the 89th minute, if I'm not mistaken, or at least in the 85th, that Monaco scored quite a sort of a nice goal, but it was a goal that Barcelona could have prevented. Now, I must say that one thing which I think is important, Dani Olmo, whom they acquired from Leipzig, a national team player, he is a Spanish international, he was injured and he will be out until the end of October, and then he'll have to get back into form. So it will take conditions. So it will take some time. Now, he is a player who finally, in my view, replaced Sergio Busquets. Because Sergio Busquets was, he was sort of a kind of a conductor, orchestra conductor from behind. He helped the defense and he saw the spaces in front in midfield. And he was sort of gluing together defense and midfield. So it was very difficult to penetrate. But he would also go up, and he was very precise in his passes. And Barcelona did not have a player like that. They couldn't substitute him. I'm not talking about the sort of, about Javi or about, so now it's already a different generation which is coming. So in Dani Olmo, they found a player who was really putting all the pieces in midfield together. He's a different kind of player, absolutely. He is more attacking, but again, he can play in any position in midfield, and he sees the game, he reads it well, and he's very good technically. And without this player, Barcelona looks like Barcelona last year and 2 years ago. Like it's a team that has 15 points now, and I will not be surprised that they will not be able to hold on to their first place, though the difference is, the second place is 4 points, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure because I saw yesterday the midfield of Barcelona, even keeping in mind that one of the midfielders was expelled. It's not, like they don't have the chemistry. No, it's something is lacking. Dani Olmo is missing, really, for sure. So those are the games and those are the teams. And now we come up to the first table. Now, on place 1, of course, is Bayern, 9-2. Now, goal difference, 7. Points free, of course, number 1. Now, I'll tell you the criteria which is applied in this tournament. Who is going to go ahead? The criteria are basically 9. So the first is best goal difference. So Bayern has 9-2, and it's a goal difference which is already impressive. Second criteria is number of goals scored. So Bayern scored 9. So Celtic won 5-1. Of course, the goal difference is but Celtic is on second place. Now, criteria number 3 is the number of goals scored in away games. Criteria 4 is the number of victories. Criteria 5 is the number of victories away. Number 6 is number of points of your adversaries. That means that the criteria is how strong your adversaries were. So you calculate the total points that your adversaries have collected during the 8 days, match days, and those teams that played the other teams, if the adversaries in some get more points, so of course they are more difficult, and therefore you could wish that the team you beat is going to win the next game. The team you beat is going to go to win, but then you never know how many games you are going to win. So it's Now it's not the time to think about it, but it is criteria number 5. Number 6, sorry. And number 7 is the number of goals that those teams that played with you scored. And then they come to the disciplinary criteria. So red card is, say, -3 points, or anyway, 3 points. Yellow card is 1 point minus, and 2 yellow cards in the same game which add to a red one, are 3 points. So when you look again at the table, well, Bayern we exclude because 9-2 is, absolutely clear. So Celtic won 5-1, Leverkusen won 4-0. The goal difference is 4, but the number of goals scored higher Celtic, because we scored 5. And the fact that Leverkusen won in an away game and they scored 4 goals, that is not, that is criteria number 3. The number of goals scored is number 2. So Celtic scored 5 and they're in place 2. So Aston Villa 3, they won 3-0. The difference is 3. Dortmund, same thing. Sparta Prague, the same thing. Liverpool, Juventus, and Real doesn't get into the first 8. So here we must explain. First of all, Liverpool scored 3 goals away, and that's okay. Real played at home and Juventus played at home, and they both won 3-1. All the criteria, we get down to the disciplinary criteria, because the other criteria now are too early. And because you didn't play all the games, you played only 1. So Juventus had no yellow cards, and Real had 4 yellow cards. So Real is on a 9th place. And if that was the final result, Real would have to play knockout games to get into the best 16. Now, after we get Sporting with 2 points, we get Benfica with 2 points, Atletico Madrid with 2 points, Brest with, 3 points, all 3 points. Sporting 3 points, but less goals scored, and Real Madrid has a better goal difference. Benfica 3 points, Atletico Madrid 3 points, Brest 3 points, Monaco 3 points, PSG, Paris Saint-Germain 3 points, but 1 goal scored. And then you have Arsenal 1 point, Inter 1 point, Atalanta 1 point, Manchester City 1 point, Bologna 1 point, Shaktar Donetsk 1 point, Leipzig, which has 0 points, but it has -1 on the average, and Barcelona, that has 0 points, -1, and Sturm Graz. Those would be the teams that play the knockout games to get to the best 16, which are going to, after that, they're going to play like playoffs, in or out. Well, of course, home away. The usual Champions League format. What should we say here? We should say another thing, that how you will not need the draw for those knockouts, because the 9th place is going to play the 24th place. The 10th place is going to play the 23rd place. The 11th place is going to play the 22nd place, and so on. That's how it's going to be done. You will not need a draw. And you will need a draw only after you get the best 16, and the first pot will be the ones that the first 8 out of 36, and those who won the knockout stages are going to be in the second pot. And after that, we all know how it goes. So, in conclusion, I like the format. I must say, I like it because it's because, as I said, I think it's more unpredictable. I think that you have to play your maximal football in every game. Yes, there are teams stronger, there are teams weaker, but you still have to be concentrated to the maximum. And if in the group game, say, you win the first 3, you are absolutely certain that you're going through place 1 or place 2. I mean, it's here, if you win 3 games and you get 9 points, that's not enough. You have to go forwards. So, plus we're going to see games like Manchester City, Inter, more of those games are going to be there because you have to play 2 teams of each pot. Over 4 pots, you have to play 2 teams of each pot. So far, I like it. And I think I'll follow it, and I think that I'll share it with you. If I'm not able to watch 8 games a day, I'll tell you honestly that I can't overcome it. Well, thank you very much for your attention, and see you at the beginning of October.